Hello, thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I'm David Pendergrass. I want to play for you a question that I received from a listener. This is a wonderful question involving parenting.
Hey there, David. Thanks for listening. I have a question. My oldest daughter got grounded this week because of her behavior over at a friend's house on last Saturday. Yesterday, I caught her red-handed on her iPad, and I said, hey, you're grounded. You need to stay out. She said, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. Later that afternoon, I caught her on it again and grounded her for an extra day. And then this morning woke up, and when I went to get the girls up, they were up early. They were under Autumn's bed playing on their iPad. So I told Autumn, that's it, you're grounded throughout the entire weekend. And then after I did that, I realized that this Saturday is her Girl Scouts camping trip. So I originally thought the Girl Scout trip was tonight on Friday. I don't know if that's relevant, but so I said you cannot go Friday to the thing with the Girl Scouts. Then I later discovered after I sent them to school that it's actually Saturday, but Autumn doesn't know that yet. But anyway, I don't know if the punishment to take her out of the Girl Scout camping trip is too harsh because it's kind of a big deal. It's their 5th grade year. You know, well, anyway, my question is I'm not really sure what to do. If I should strike a deal and say, okay, you can go to the Girl Scout camping trip, but that means you're going to be grounded for the next 2 weekends, or if I just simply say, no, you were defiant, and so you are not going to the Girl Scout camping trip. I don't know what to do and what makes me a weak parent, or I don't know. I don't know what to do. I feel like a punk, and I don't know what to do. Thanks.
I love this question. To give you a heads up, I know the listener, Stephanie, and so I called her since she had to deal with the issue before the weekend because of this Girl Scout trip. I texted her and said, I'm going to tell her to a podcast. She said, can you let me know before then too? Because how long is it going to take to do the podcast? So I called her and we chatted and I gave her my input quickly so she can make her own decision. And of course she will make her own decision, but I gave her some, input here and there. And these are some of the things I said. Some of the things, again, I nuanced with her differently, and I'm not going to go into all that with you because it would take a long time. Notice how early on Stephanie said that she grounded her and said you lost the iPad. It's very important to always explain what your child, I'll just say they, instead of saying he or she all the time. It's always important to explain why what they did was wrong. You need to explain why what they did was wrong. And it's okay to use words like, that's not ethical, it's not honest, that's not good, it's not right, it's not Christian. We don't do that. And it's okay if you have to teach your kids some of these things. Kids have an apprehension to some degree of the moral law, but they learn morality also because we teach them. That's okay. It doesn't mean morality is relative, it just means we teach them. I learn mathematics, but 2 + 2 doesn't equal 7 just because I want it to. I have to learn what the true right answer is. Well, that's how it is with ethics with anybody, and with our children too. You have to explain why what they did is not good or not right. And then there's a consequence. So you explain why what they did was wrong. No, you can't play the iPad. You're grounded. You're grounded because whatever she did, and you're grounded. Now the consequence is you've lost the iPad. You cannot play on the iPad. And then have them repeat it. So you say why what they did was wrong. You tell them the consequence, and you have them repeat. Now tell me back what I just said. I've said this many, many times with my children. Now say back to me what I just said. I heard you. No. Say back what I just said. I understand. No. I'm pretending if that's what they did. No. Until you repeat back what you said, you're about to lose a lot more. You're about to be grounded more until I hear you say the words, what I just said. We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere until I hear exactly what I just said to you. Repeat it, or you're going to be more in trouble. And then if they quote unquote forget, oh, I forgot. They do it anyway. Say she goes and plays on the iPad again, and she just forgot. Oh, I just forgot. No, they still get consequences. They still get consequences. They need to learn how to remember important things. They need to learn how to remember important things. Ignorance or memory is not an excuse for the real world. It's not an excuse. Now, I know many adults who think it is. My alarm didn't go off. I slept in. Oh, I forgot all about it. That's what babies do. That's what children do. But adults don't do that. And the way we're training our children in life will train them poorly or well for adulthood. To train your children well for adulthood is you start teaching them that there are negative consequences for not remembering important things. Now, of course, this is nuanced. If your child has various learning issues, learning disorders, okay, that's nuanced. And there's nuance from people who are on the spectrum, children that you know what they have a better time remembering than other times. It just depends on the child. But in general, even with various learning issues, always assume the most amount of responsibility possible. Assume the most amount of responsibility possible. So the level of responsibility will depend upon the child's capacity, but always assume more. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt that much. Assume they can do more than maybe you think. And don't be crazy with it, because children are still children, especially when they're very young. They really genuinely do not remember. A little footnote, I was just talking to my daughter about something a few years ago at a former house about how something was. And I said, do you remember that? She goes, no, not at all. I mean, she has no recollection whatsoever of what I was talking about. Well, to me, that's bizarre, but it's not at all. For her, that was several years ago. She was more like 5 years old, 6 years old. So I'm not going to punish her for something from 5 or 6 years ago. And sometimes that's true for children even last night. Sometimes they just don't remember. But one of the things to help them remember is, like I just said, you have them repeat back to you, and you still give them the consequence if they quote-unquote forgot. They need to learn that it's important. For example, the other day, on our stairs, we have a 2-story house. On our stairs, there's kid stuff on it all the time. They will jump over their stuff to go upstairs instead of grabbing their stuff as they go up. I told my children, the next time you go over your stuff, you're going to be grounded. And I said a few more things. And my daughter, who oftentimes forgets, she went and on her own, she went and got a piece of paper and wrote a note to herself and put it on the chair beside the stairs. And it said, take your stuff upstairs. And guess what they've done since then? They've taken their stuff off the stairs. So teach them how that important things must be remembered. You must make up ways to remember it. If they can't think that way, then help them think about it, but they've got to remember it. Let me say something else about this concept of discipline. This discipline is I call it a reality consequence. A reality consequence. Now I'm using reality as an adjective there, of course. A consequence of reality. What it means is a discipline is your way as a parent to get them ready for the real world, for reality. You're getting them ready for the real world. And I say this all the time with my children. I would say, for example, I'm telling you, when you make excuses, one of my son's biggest problems is playing the victim. It's not his fault. And I'll say over and over, I've said so many times, when you get to high school, your teachers won't care as much as they do now, I guarantee it. When you get to university, your professors won't give a rip what your excuse is. They get paid whether you fail or not. It won't matter at all. When you go to get a job, employers won't give a rip because a couple of hundred people will be right after you wanting a job who really, really are hungry for it, and they won't be late. They won't make excuses. And if they do, they'll get fired too. Reality is, as you grow up, people will care less and less about all your dumb excuses. They won't give a rip. So reality can be wonderful, or it can really, really be awful if you can't navigate it well, if you cannot negotiate reality well. Discipline from a parent is giving your children consequences to prepare for reality. To prepare for reality. Most parents I know who are very bad at parenting, and a significant portion of parents I know aren't very good parents, it's because they are not preparing their children for reality. These are old enough kids, and yet they make their meal, the lunch for them every single day. They get their homework for them every single day. They do a checklist every single day. I'm not talking about children who have learning disorders and have other attention issues. Some of them need extra help. I'm not talking about them. But most children don't have that problem. In fact, they're just parents who are enabling them. So discipline prepares your children for reality, and you're not enabling them. Well, what is a reality consequence? What is discipline? You need to always deal in their currency. What is their money? What is the value? And you're going to do one of two things. This is how discipline is supposed to work. It's logical and appropriate to either take away what they value or make them do something they hate. Take away what they value and or make them do something they hate. Now, doing something they hate is also part of the currency because they hate it. They would rather do X. And since you are disallowing them to do X, play on the Xbox, instead you're making them clean a toilet or two. Now, they might hate doing drugs and murdering people. We're not talking about stupid things like that. We're talking about legitimate things they hate to do, like clean the toilets, take out the trash, whatever it is you think they go, oh, I can't stand it. Make all the beds, whatever that is. I mean, in the real world, who gives a rip? There's just taking trash out. But you're either taking away what they value, not the value of food or drink. And see, that's part of the extremes where bad parenting comes involved. You don't want the extremes. I remember watching a thing on TV one time when this couple made they had 3 or 4 boys, and 2 of the boys they made sit on the stairs and time out for 2 or 3 or 4 hours at a time on the stairs. They chained the refrigerator. They grounded them from food. The neighbor saw them one day out in the front in the trash digging for food in the trash can, and finally Child Protective Services, which had been out there several times, finally took them. And anyway, the good news is they have since been adopted by another family and are well taken care of. By the time, this was several years ago when I saw that, they were upper teenagers and had filled out just fine and looked very healthy and were happy and praise God, had been rescued by genuine Christians, not people who locked the refrigerator door. My point there, of course, is you're not taking away as a parent the valuable things like shelter, food, clean water if you can get it, food if you can get it, healthy food if you can get it, and of course, unconditional love and acceptance. Those are basic nutrients. I don't care if you were too young when you had your children. I don't care if you're too old. I don't care if he was ugly. I don't care if you were raped. When you brought them into this world, they are owed those non-negotiable things. That's bottom line. So when I talk about consequences being you take away what they value, I mean on those luxuries, the benefits, the things like video games, maybe their favorite books, maybe their favorite trips, maybe their bicycle, maybe their those kinds of things. Not your love and affection and your care for them and your concern for them, for their well-being, their physical safety. That's not what I'm talking about. The other extreme is that it's no big deal, that everything is no big deal, that everything is just an excuse. Those are the extremes. Either there's a form of abuse, or the other extreme is, well, it's no big deal, and you let them get away with everything. And I've seen those kids too. You've seen them out in the grocery store sometime. They just let loose and go crazy. It's because the parents let them do whatever they want. So discipline is a reality consequence where you're getting them ready for the real world, and you're dealing with them in their currency. Either take away what they value or make them do something they hate. Now, let me say one quick, very important footnote to all this. Yelling is not discipline. Nagging is not discipline. Screaming is not discipline. Guilt messages are not discipline. Violence is not discipline. So many parents think that yelling or screaming or manipulation is discipline. A very, very common technique with fathers is to grab their children and pull them real close to their face and talk like this. If you do that one more time, and the curling of the lips and their bloodshot eyes and their real intense talk like they're Clint Eastwood is to scare them. That's just manipulation. And I have seen it over and over and over again. I mean, I really have. People I know. Oh my goodness. There were several fathers I know right now who I consider friends who I've seen do this too. And you know what their children do? Exactly what they want. They just roll their eyes, they look away, they might stop for a second, but it's not a consequence. And especially when it comes to feeder type, particularly, not always, but particularly little girls, yelling and screaming makes them get calm and do what you want for a second because they're trying to restore the relationship. They've not learned anything about reality. Yelling, nagging, guilt messages, manipulation, screaming, violence, none of these things are discipline. It just means you're a bad parent. And in that instance, you're a bad parent. So it's bad parenting skills. So those are not discipline. What is discipline are logical, appropriate, healthy things where you're dealing with their currency. Figure out what it is. And if there's nothing at all, I don't care. Well, they're going to care when you start. You can do some things to make them care, particularly when you make them do things they hate. Later on, Stephanie says, well, she had the iPad and I discovered it again. That is, discovered she was playing on it again after she quote unquote forgot. So this is twice now she's lied to her. And I heard that. I went, oh my goodness. Okay, here's what I would do about that. Let me say something about the levels. There are different levels of consequences. It's like when you go to a marketplace, when you buy anything, there's the low, medium, and high. Kind of like in prison. There's low security, middle security. And then there's isolation. You're not doing the same thing, Lord Jesus. Don't go put your kids in prison. I'm saying it, there's different severity of consequences depending on the severity of what they've done, the crime committed. In my world, in my family, based on the research I've done and also based on reality that I've experienced, I have 3 basic levels of consequence. 1, there's the really little isolated things, like today no video games. Or say we're in a toy store and they were very rude or something like that, and we leave the toy store with no toy. So they're isolated, they're short term. No, you can't have the ice cream because you talk so like a punk to your sister. No, you can't do so-and-so. Nope, never mind, we're not doing that. Nope. Now, they don't like it. They might get very upset about it, but so what? And I'll talk about that later. But listen, they're going to be upset. Reality does that to us. Do you want people who don't love your children teaching them reality? Or do you want to teach your kids about reality, assuming you love them? So just because they're upset is irrelevant for whether it's right or wrong. So the first level of consequence is an isolated little thing. A moderate is when you have length to it. For example, no electronics whatsoever. Instead of just no video games, it means no iPad, no video games, no TV, no nothing. No electronics. If you turn it on, you can't look at it or listen to it all day long or 2 days. You can't even be near a TV to listen to it. That's a moderate level. That means that's real life. So maybe so let's say your kids love to jump on the trampoline and play video games and watch movies. So the moderate would be you might lose all those except you can play on the trampoline. Moderate in my family, moderate is if it involves exercise, I let them do it. That's the moderate. So really little is something real isolated right then. The moderate is upping the game where all the electronics, all the extra little fun stuff like that, any kind of games are done. But if it involves exercise, I'll let them do that. You can run around the backyard. You can go play in the dirt, kick a stick. You know, kids don't know what any of that dirt is. I don't know how many kids actually know what dirt is or sticks. I'm not sure. I think they've probably seen it on YouTube. And then there's the third level of consequence, and that's heavy. Heavy is what I call, I call it lockdown. Lockdown is they've lost it all. No electronics, no bikes, no trampoline, no parties, no trips. There's nothing. And here, before I allowed exercise, and now there's nothing involved whatsoever unless it's educational. So I let them read, I let them write, I let them watch the paint dry. That's it. And on top of that, I will typically add chores. Lockdown is kind of, in their view, lockdown is Armageddon. It is absolute. The only thing above lockdown, and the lockdown can last for, again, usually it's not that long. Really severe things might be a week of lockdown. But typically, in our family, if it gets to lockdown, it might be for a weekend, 2 or 3 days or something. Or another isolated instance. If we say, what I did before, if you don't do X, Y, Z, this consequence is going to happen. Do you understand that? Yes, I do. Are you sure? Repeat back to me what I just said, and they'll say it back. And they still do it. Well, then that's lockdown. The consequence might have been locked down for a week or whatever, but that's only happened, I think, one time ever. Typically, lockdown is a short period of time. Anything above that would be that you will literally strip the room out. Whatever is in their room. Books are gone. I mean, it's going to look like a padded cell by the time you're finished. You get rid of the TV, you sell it on eBay, you whatever it is. In my house, both my kids love electronics. So I take the remote controls to the Xboxes, take all their iPads. Well, we don't have all. We only have one old one. Anyway, so whatever's electronic at all, I take all that. You determine the consequence, the low, middle, or high, by how much you value what they're supposed to learn or what they violated. And you got to determine that. You got to determine how much you value something. You and your spouse, ideally, if you're co-parenting, this needs to be a joint decision. If you're not co-parenting, then do the best job you can, of course. You're the parent, so get at it. If you're in a mixed family, divorced, you've got to go back to the original parent as much as that parent wants to be involved and come to some agreement together so that when they're at different houses, they have the same kind of level of consequence. And you do the best job you can. Some exes or ex-spouses are just punks. You do the best job you can. And if you can't come to any kind of agreement, you have to explain to your children. When you're in my house, I understand that and it's unfortunate, but I love you very much and I know your dad loves you too. But the way it works is when you're here, these are the consequences and I will always let you know and so forth. And that's tough on the kids, but that's the best you can do. So it depends on what the value is. For example, in our home, there are certain things that are non-negotiables. For example, in our home, there are certain things that are non-negotiable bad things, like violence. If my kids ever hit or kick or even look like they throw their fist up, they're going to hit someone, that got it to moderate or heavy consequences immediately. When they were little, it got a spanking on their bottom right away. Right away. We don't hit. I might hold their hand. I don't squeeze them and throw them across the room. I hold their hand kind of tightly and look at them with a frowned face and say, we don't hit. We do not hit. That's a non-negotiable. Now, I have explained to my kids, if they ever were abducted, if someone grabbed them, you let loose. You got to get free. But we don't hit to show our anger because someone took our toy and things like that. So it depends on that. Other things are virtues. All the virtues are non-negotiables in my home. I will not have children who lie to me. I will not have children who are dishonest or who are irresponsible or who judge people and condemn people. If they make fun of people, those are non-negotiables. That will not happen in my home. If they ever make fun of each other or someone else, that's a moderate to heavy right away. Right away. Now, David, is that fair? It is fair because I've explained it to him. Usually it depends, but typically I don't give a consequence unless I've explained it. There's some warning involved. But again, there are different levels of consequences and you get to decide. Now, before you give the consequence, you need to tell them how you feel and how severe it is. But you nuance how you feel. So, for example, let's say if my son's talking back to his mom, or my wife, obviously, and he's talking back to her and his son, tell you're sorry right now. And he does, and he just had a moody day, and he's talking back a good bit. Son, if you do that one more time, and this is exactly the kind of stuff I say I do. If you talk to my wife that way one more time, you're going to lose electronics, TV, everything all day long. If you do it another time, you're on lockdown for the weekend. Now, because I've used that vocabulary a lot, he knows what that means. And I also tell him before the consequence and during the consequence, sometimes after the consequence, how it made me feel. For example, one time my son was grounded for something. I can't remember now what it was, grades or I don't know what it was. And he was not to play his video game, this little Vita that he has. And I explained it to him. He understood it. He repeated back to me. Later on that night, I went to go tuck him to see if he was asleep yet. He was in his room with the door shut. The door's never shut. With the lights out, underneath the blankets, playing the Vita. I could not believe it. I opened the door, turned the lights on, and he jumped about 8 feet in the air onto the ground. He ripped off the headphones that I had let him borrow, my Bose headphones to use, and he just instantaneously put it in my chest like, here, take it. And I stood there in shock and horror. And so what did I say? I looked at him. I was genuinely shocked because this is not at all my son's character. He had never in my life, in his life, he had never done this kind of thing before. This was about a year ago. And I looked at him and I said, I cannot believe this. This is overwhelmingly frustrating to me. I am very angry and I'm very sad that you betrayed my trust. You betrayed my trust. I'm not sure if I can trust you right now at all. And of course, he was very remorseful and very sad. I was livid mad. And I said, get me everything now. And he knew what that meant. He went and grabbed all the remote controls, he grabbed everything. And I said, give me this. And I went and hit all that. And I said, you're on lockdown. And I'll tell you how long in a little bit. Because I didn't want to throw out a consequence right now because I was so emotional. So I went and talked to my wife for a while. And we came back. And he was on lockdown for, I don't remember now. It was 3 or 4 or 5 days. Now, why would I do it 3 or 4 or 5 days? Because he deliberately betrayed me. And here, the questioner, Stephanie, your daughter has deliberately betrayed you. And I'm telling you, in the real world, when they're adults, when they deliberately betray people, they can end up in prison. They can end up arrested. They can end up with no friends. I tell my kids all that all the time. If you're like this, I'm telling you, no one's going to like you. You won't have any friends. You won't have good relationships with people. So before you nuance my point of all this was, you tell them how you feel about what they've done. If it's little, I don't tell them every single time, my feelings are hurt, I'm so mad. But if it's severe, if it gets to lockdown stage, moderate to lockdown, this second or third category, I tell them. Now, it's nuanced because you're not telling them to make sure they feel guilty. You're only telling them just enough to let them know that their behavior has a consequence to other people. That's a good thing for them to learn, that what they do matters. It has an emotional effect on people they love and they know. You don't go on and on and on and on. I'm so sad. I can't believe it. You don't go on and on and on about your emotional state. You don't need to. They're not there to rescue you. You're an adult. Get over it. And you will get over it and you will process it. All you're letting them know is the consequence of their actions and what it's done to you. Now, if you need therapy, if something is very much overreactive, if you find yourself you can't control your emotional state, well then don't tell them at first. Go weep, go talk to a therapist or something, then come back and say, the other day when you did X, Y, Z, it really bothered me and here's why. So it's okay to talk about how you feel. You just don't want to go all in it because your kids are not your therapist. They're not even your friends. They're your children. Okay, Stephanie also then said that when she found the iPad, she grounded her for another day. I disagree with that. I don't think you ground for another day because in my categories, that's like taking the same category and just adding a little more time. If they deliberately violate the rule you place down, again, they deliberately do it again, you go up the level of severity of consequence. So if it was a little isolated thing, they go to moderate. Now you've lost electronics all day long, or you've lost it all weekend. If it goes to lockdown is the next one. You need to make it painful and severe if it violates a chief value. It's got to sting. If it doesn't sting, it's not going to stick inside of them. They have to suffer the consequence, especially when they deliberately violated your trust. They betrayed you. They betrayed your rule. Well, that's a big deal. So what did I tell Stephanie? In this instance, I said you have two options and both I think are okay. This time you could allow her to go to the Girl Scout trip. Like there's a pass. Even prisoners sometimes get on bail before they go to jail. But you would say, here's the deal. You do everything I just said. You explain what she did was wrong, how bad it was wrong, how it made you feel, and how severe it is. And then, but here's the deal. You're going on the trip, but when you get back, here are the consequences. She has to have consequences when she gets back. Or you go all in now. You go on right now and say, nope, you're not going. Because of what you've done, you deliberately betrayed me. You deliberately went against what I said multiple times. You've lost it. Now, whatever it is you choose, you explain it, and don't waver for a second. Your child's going to go crazy. She's going to cry. She's going to weep. She's going to want to snuggle. She's going to want to try to win you over to get what she wants. Because a lot of times, most children are just manipulative. They want to try to get what they want when they want it. Because most kids really are kind of like narcissists. But again, as any good psychologist will tell you, we teach them that. But we're supposed to as a child. When they cry, we feed them. When they want a toy, we give it to them. I mean, we teach them the world's all about themselves. We have to disabuse them of that fact the older they get. It's a slow progression. The older they get, the more they need to realize the world's not all theirs. And they're not owed anything besides from their parents the nutrients already talked about. Now, listen, you're not a punk. You love them enough to get them ready for reality. For people who don't love them like you do. Think about that. Loving parents are parents who prepare their children for reality. When people who don't love your children have the ability to enact consequences, it's going to be painful. You give it out of love, with parameters, with control, as a Christian. Kindly and strictly, but kindly and appropriate. But in the real world, there's no guarantee that they're going to be safe at all. And if you don't teach them now, they're going to lose it because they lost their job or they end up in jail. It's going to be extreme sometimes, not all the time. They might not have many friends. They might have more of an unfulfilling life, all because you didn't teach them. But you're not a punk. You're not a punk. And here's a couple of things. She asked a couple other questions while I was on the phone. Stephanie said she wondered if she'd gave one girl who's usually very, very good a little too many passes. She goes, I wonder if am I being unfair or should I be the same no matter what? And she goes, I think I know the answer already. I should always be the same. And I said, abso-stinkin-lutely. You must be the same in your discipline. Now, is it true that my daughter, personally, my own daughter gets away with a little bit more than my son? That depends on what you're talking about. Does my daughter get a few more pieces of chocolate or candy if she asks for it? Probably so. Then of course, my son doesn't really like chocolate, but sometimes little things like that. But my daughter and my son get zero partiality when it comes to my non-negotiables. Zero. They are equally punished, equal consequences, depending on what those things we value, what the character I'm trying to put into my children. And if you haven't heard already, I have a podcast on this. I've got a blog on this. You need to read more about that and listen more about that. But that is the number one goal of parenting anyway, is putting character inside your child. And I have zero partiality with my children. So yes, the answer is your children must be treated the same. Absolutely the same. And that led to the other question, what about praising them and giving them treats and so forth? Doctors Cloud and Townsend, I really, really like what they say about this one. I think their advice is exactly right. You only praise your children when they do something excellent, way above average, or two, there's a great change from before, like before they were really, really bad about waking themselves in the morning with their alarm clock, and then they changed. Praise them for that, but then get over it. Thirdly, you praise them because of a new trait or skill they learned. Learn how to play the guitar, learn how to speak a language, learn how to do geometry for the first time, whatever. You do not praise them when it's something that should occur. You do not praise them for keeping the room clean, unless they've never done it before ever, and that's the first time you see it. You go, whoa, congratulations, that's great. I'm glad you did exactly what I expect you to do. Way to go, good change, and then go on with your life. They are not praised for doing what is expected. Now, you should explain to them what's expected. When they went, Mom, can I get a treat? Can I go get a toy because I made good grades? You look at them, go crazy and go, why? Well, because I made good grades. And I'm proud of you. You're supposed to make those because you work hard in school. That's what you're supposed to do. Mom, can I get a treat because I cleaned my room today? Look at them crazy. No. I want a treat. I want a toy. Oh, man. When my kids start doing a little entitlement fuss, I will stop what I'm doing. You can ask them. In the mall, in the airport, I don't care where we're at. I will stop, look down at them, I'll kneel down, look in the eyeballs, and go, how much did you pay for those clothes you're wearing? I forgot. How much did you pay for the meal we just ate? How much were those clothes you put on every day? How much was that bed? How many hours did you work at your job this week? Of course, by this time, they're making a face like, oh, okay, Dad. I look at them and say, have you lost your mind? Tell me again what you're entitled to. You live the dream world. Everything you own is mine. Everything you play with is mine. Everything you do is in my world. I let you do this. You're not owed these treats. You're not owed the luxury of a toy and an extra donut. You're not owed that at all. You're owed unconditional love, which you have until your death. Hopefully I'll die first. You have that forever. You are owed resources like shelter and food and water, and you'll get it. You'll get it because I love you so much. You're not owed these other things. And what you're doing is demonstrating something called entitlement, where you think you're owed. Let me tell you how reality is. You're not owed anything for other people. And I'm telling you, prepare you for the real world. If you have this attitude later on when you grow up, I'm telling you, it's really going to hurt you. It's coming. I know adults who are very entitled, and it hurts them a lot. And that's it. End of story. And I have said that many times to my children. You look at them like they're crazy, and you say it. Have you gone crazy? So you don't praise them. You don't give them gifts for things they're expected to do. You do that for things they weren't expected to do, or they had excellent on this and that, or they changed a great behavior. But you don't lavish them from praise. It's those, giving a trophy. Everyone on the team gets a trophy. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. That's not how reality is. It's not how reality is. Everyone doesn't get to be the CEO. Everyone doesn't get to be the champions past Little League. That's why you work hard. That's why you put so much energy and time and resources into an exercise or to a sport or to an instrument or something so that you get better at it. So that's what I said to her. You're not a punk. If you give consequences, you love your children, do not give up. Your children are waiting on you to be a parent. What if you screwed up? She said that on the phone. She said, oh my goodness, I have messed up totally. Maybe you have messed up. So what you do is you admit it. You tell your kids. Kids go, what happened? Last time you let me get a toy. Last time you let me go to the trip. You kneel down. You look them in the eyes and say, you're exactly right. I did let you do that last time. And I was wrong for letting you. I should not have let you done that. And now things have changed. And then you go back to whatever you're doing. If you're walking down the hallway, if you're cooking dinner, whatever it is, you go back to normal. But that's not fair. You look at them and say, what's not fair? Well, because last time you let me do it, you're right. I was wrong for letting you do it. You should have been disciplined. You should have had a consequence. But now things are changed. They're different. Well, that's not fair. And after I've said it once, maybe twice, I'm done. And I will say that. I look at them and say, I'm not talking about this anymore. The conversation is over. Well, Mom, you look at them real sternly. If you say one more thing about that topic, you're going to be grounded. You're going to have a negative consequence. Do you want to be grounded? Don't sit there and take a bunch of nonsense and back talk and whatever. You didn't yell at him. You didn't guilt him. You didn't backhand him. You didn't scream at him. You didn't slap him. You didn't punch him. You didn't throw the pork chop in their face. Those aren't consequences. That just means you're a child too. What you need to be is very, very clear about the consequence. It's the most loving thing you can do for your children. Put character inside them, and they learn. You put that character, they learn character by dealing with consequences. Controlled, logical, healthy, loving consequences to prepare them for reality. Don't give up. It starts today. God bless you. See you next time. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want more, go to davidpendergrass.com. davidpendergrass.com. If you look at the top, you'll see various tabs that have sermons I've preached, a link to all the podcasts I've done so far, a link to my consulting website. For more information about my consulting, see davidpendergrassconsulting.com. Also, you'll see information about the books I've written that are found on amazon.com. So davidpendergrass.com, one-stop shop, all that you need. If you want to reach out to me, follow me on Twitter at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass, and send me a message. I'll see you online. I gotta run and tell about what